G'day chaps, tis I, Clownpuncher139. Icebergs are more than things Penguin uses as features of his lounge. They're large, complex figures that are the epitome of more than the eye can see. These behemoths were able to sink the largest ship in the world, and yet are quickly melting away with each passing day. They're also the perfect framing device for lore, conspiracy theories, and shitposts. Most major franchises have an iceberg of facts, Easter eggs, and conspiracies, with the most well-known all the way at the top and some of the most obscure trivia in the depths below. Arkham is no stranger to such trend, and I shall be the one to explain it for all you normies out there. This is the Arkham Iceberg Explained. For clarity, I'm using an iceberg created by user Brot on Reddit, who was even kind enough to reach out to me when he found out I was working on the video to give me advice on confusing entries. So, huge thanks to Brot, links in the description. And without further ado, let's start explaining this behemoth of an iceberg. Part 1. The Sky. Batman is Bruce Wayne. Sorry, was that too much of a spoiler for the first entry? Well, too late now, so let's break it down. This is revealed at multiple points in each game. However, the most obvious tell is the beginning of Batman Arkham City. Bruce Wayne is captured by Tiger Guards and locked in Arkham City by Hugo Strange. As the opening sequence finishes, Strange says that by the end of the night, he will be a hero just like him, and then says Batman. This is slight evidence towards Bruce being Batman, though it's shown explicitly a little bit later. After Bruce climbs the Ace Chemicals building, a drop pod appears, which contains a batsuit. Presumably, Bruce puts it on, proving that he is Batman. There are other points in various games, but this is the most concrete evidence that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Okay, I'm done with this bit. Hecking obviously Bruce Wayne is Batman, and you don't need any proof. Riddler trophies. In Arkham Asylum, City, and Night, Edward Nygma, aka the Riddler, places small question mark trophies across the map for Batman to collect as a way of proving that he is better than Batman. In Arkham Asylum, he scatters them around while escaping to an undisclosed location in Gotham, while in Night and City, he hires a bunch of goons to do the dirty work for him. But I'm sure you know very well what these trophies are, as you've probably collected 883 throughout all the Arkham games. Not pretty, but it's a dang good representation of Riddler, you can't lie. Electrocutioner Boss Fight. Electrocutioner is a boss in Arkham Origins, and is an absolute masterclass in boss design. It is incredibly difficult, provides very little room for error, and has some amazing story beats as well. Nowhere else in the Arkham series or video games in general does such an amazing boss exist. And I'm obviously being sarcastic because this boss is a literal joke, but doesn't mean I love it any less. Death screens. Whenever Batman dies in the Arkham games, a special screen appears with a villain taunting Batman while he's down. These serve as motivation for the player to get back up and keep fighting, as you can't let the villain win. Some of my favorites include Scarecrow's in Asylum,
and at the end of fear, oblivion.
Penguin's in Origins,
Boys, get him out of here. And don't ding up any of the gear. It's worth some money.
and Joker's in Night.
Bats? Bats? Bats!
The Arkham series features a wide variety of suits for Batman to wear. Almost all of them are only cosmetic, and most are exclusive to the challenge modes. The only exception being the extreme environment suit from Arkham Origins' Cold Heart, which gave Batman heat gloves to break through ice to power up his batarangs. But I think we can all agree that Batman Beyond is always the best suit. Inmate conversations. Inmates and other criminals will have various conversations throughout the stories of City, Origins, and Night. More often than not, they're meant to be humorous little distractions to provide some comic relief when Joker isn't present. There's a lot of conversation throughout these games, to the point I'm sure there's a lot you've never even heard. A lot of them are dedicated to certain plot points and only show up in certain locations that you may never even go to in the main story. It's a great detail that most players never get to see because they're too focused on the main story. Part 2. Tip of the Iceberg. Live-action trailers. There's only one live-action trailer for an Arkham video game, and that's an Arkham Knight trailer that I don't really know the origin of. It features about a minute of live-action footage that doesn't really pertain to Batman or Arkham at first glance. It's meant to be an uplifting trailer, telling people to be better than the terrible world around them like Batman. It ends with some 9-inch nails and a few seconds of actual gameplay footage, making this a pretty popular trailer despite not showing much of the game itself. Every other trailer for an Arkham game has either been strictly game footage, usually gameplay, or computer-generated footage that could easily be mistaken for live action. I know for years I thought the Arkham City trailer was live action, but no, it was all computer-generated along with the Origins Deathstroke trailer and Night Batmobile trailer. Side note, it's amazing how good these trailers still are after all these years. Seriously, this trailer was made in 2010 and looks better than most cinematic trailers made today. I recommend watching all the cinematic trailers again if it's been a while because holy crap, they are incredible. Origins Blackgate. Origins Blackgate is a side game released at the same time as base Origins for the 3DS and PS Vita. It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up with Metroidvania elements sprinkled in there for good measure. It takes place 3 months after the events of Origins itself and features Joker, Penguin, and Black Mask taking over their own sections of Blackgate after an explosion sets them free. It's up to Batman to defeat and investigate them to learn what caused this whole mess in the first place. I won't go into too many other details, but yes, this is a game that exists. I'm betting most of you have never played it, let alone even heard of it, so here you go, possibly learning about it for the first time. It wasn't received super well, and combined with Origins' lukewarm response, it wasn't going to get a sequel anytime soon. Though I definitely do intend to play it someday, don't expect a video on it because I don't have a 3DS capture card. Return to Arkham. In 2016, Rocksteady announced Batman Return to Arkham, which were remasters of Arkham Asylum and City for modern consoles. When I first saw this trailer back in the day, I thought we were getting all new Arkham games. Consider my shock and disappointment when I realized they were only remakes of games I already owned. These games have been relatively poorly received, as many consider them to be graphical downgrades despite being in a new engine and modern consoles. Some claim that they also have more glitches than the original despite not adding or subtracting anything from their source games, though I can't confirm or deny this. Needless to say, remakes that added nothing and to some subtracted from the originals did not go over well. I personally have never played them despite my audience generally telling me to do so because I don't want to buy something I already own for a second time. I already had to buy a second copy of Arkham City way back in the day because my first copy ended up incredibly scratched to the point of being unplayable. And the fact that I already had to buy my favorite game twice means I'm definitely not buying it for a third time when there's no new content. Arkham VR. Batman Arkham VR was a virtual reality game released around the same time as Return to Arkham. It puts the player in the shoes of Batman in a prequel to Arkham Knight. You get to don the cowl in a completely original story where you can grapple around the world, throw batarangs, and solve crimes as the world's greatest detective himself. Spoiler alert, but the whole thing is just a nightmare Batman has while infected with Joker's blood, once again taking place before night. It was met with mixed reviews, with some praising the feeling of Batman from back in the Asylum days, with others claiming it as just a tech demo with very little value. Having not personally played it myself, I cannot speak to its worth, though the YouTube walkthroughs I've seen seem pretty fun. So I may give it a try if I ever pick up a VR headset. References to other heroes. There's a lot of references to other DC heroes in the Arkhamverse, specifically Arkham Knight. Queen Industries is a prominent company mentioned all over Gotham in Arkham Knight, Oliver Queen being the secret identity of Green Arrow. Lex Luthor, Superman's arch-nemesis, is a prominent figure in Gotham at the time of this game. Multiple thugs and militia mention his presence in the story, beginning to take over that of Bruce Wayne, and how he may have put some money into the operation. Lex can also be heard on a message to Bruce in Mr. Fox's office. Superman himself is slightly mentioned a few times by thugs, though they mostly call him that freak from Metropolis. The Flash is kinda mentioned by one of the militia, as he remarks he'd rather take over Gotham than Keystone, the Flash's home turf, because he can see Batman coming. One most of you probably didn't know about is a message from Kate Kane, also known as Batwoman. While her CW show is obviously terrible, I can't speak to the comic character herself, so that's why I don't care about mentioning it. It's actually a pretty significant call, as Kate mentions that nobody has seen Bruce in months, and his appearance is starting to slip. This is a topic I'll go more into in a later video, but keep this idea in the back of your minds. Overall, Arkham Knight really expanded the world the Arkhamverse inhabits with these character inclusions. Sure, the DC universe has always been connected in some way, but the Arkhamverse was pretty lax in its outside character inclusions. Before this, all we got was a single mention of Metropolis and Arkham City. It opened up the window for some more DC properties getting Arkham-like games, and we're getting one soon with Suicide Squad. Game crashing in Arkham Asylum. In Batman Arkham Asylum, after returning to intensive treatment to find Killer Croc's lair, you'll hear the woman over the intercom ask,
"Did anyone catch the game last night?"
After this, your screen will go staticky, the audio will be broken and jumbled, and the game supposedly crashes. The screen stays black for a bit before you're supposedly sent back to the beginning of the game. This is Scarecrow breaking the fourth wall and tapping into the player's fears on top of Batman's. We all know this is one of the best moments in gaming history, especially because of how real the crash seems the first time. Obviously, the game doesn't actually crash, as the entire screen is scripted to happen at the exact same time, every time. But you can't tell me you didn't fall for this the first time. If you do, you're 100% a liar. Unique death scenes. Since we had death screens, the section before this, I'm guessing this has to do with rare situations the player can die in that lead to interesting animations or death screens. A few that come to mind are Killer Croc, Joker, the GCPD, and Tiny. In Croc's lair, running for an extended period of time will have Croc reach from under the platform, breaking it in half and dragging Batman into the water below. Most people probably never saw this because you were probably smart enough to never run in Croc's lair to begin with. During the final Scarecrow section, Joker shoots you in the face and a death screen pops up telling you to move the middle stick to avoid it. Obviously, the middle stick doesn't exist, and this actually marks the only time in the series that there's a game over screen that actually progresses the player forward. Failing at any point during the assault on the GCPD in Arkham Knight will cause a unique cutscene to play, showing a group of militia exiting an elevator and gunning down the entire precinct. It is absolutely brutal and may have been a driving factor towards that M rating. To my knowledge, this is the only instance of a cutscene taking the place of a death screen when the player gets a game over. Finally, falling into the water at any point in the torture chamber in Arkham City causes the player to get gobbled up and dragged underwater by Tiny. During his final attack, if the player fails to hit Tiny enough, they and the platform will be dragged underwater, and a unique fail text will show up. Fight off the shark using Batman's powerful shark repellent. This, of course, is in reference to the Adam West Batman who uses bat shark repellent while getting his leg bitten by a shark. Joker shot Barbara. Don't know why this is here and not in the sky, but if you don't know, the Joker shot Barbara Gordon, aka Oracle, in the spine, forcing her into a wheelchair for life. You see a dramatized version of this in an Arkham Knight hallucination. And fun fact, you can see Barbara's broken spine by examining her in detective mode. Crime Alley. In Arkham City and Origins, you can visit the alley where Batman's parents were shot, also known as Crime Alley. In Arkham Origins, another crime is committed there, when an acquaintance named Ian Chase murders his former best friend and love interest. Out of all the crime scenes in Arkham Origins, this is the only one Bruce has a connection to. He knew the victims and the criminal responsible, and judging from Alfred's wording of the situation, they may have been friends. When he tracks down Chase and interrogates him, he's more violent and irrational than he is with other criminals. His vitals are erratic, and he nearly suffocates Chase under his boot. He's enraged. This makes two parties that he's personally known dead in the same alley, and what makes it worse is the encounter that happens in Arkham City. Hugo Strange has recreated the outlines of the Waynes in Crime Alley, with a spotlight shining right down on them. He's also left flowers and a tape for Batman to listen to. He taunts Bruce and starts prodding him. He asks if the mask helps him conceal his feelings, and he looks forward to breaking him. It's a small moment, but it shows what great lengths Strange has gone to in truly defeating Batman. Even if you encounter this scene after his death, it's just as powerful. He's taunting Batman from beyond the grave in the very spot where he was created. Also, this game did press A to pay respects 2 years before Advanced Warfare, just saying! Part 3. Into the Water. Big Head Mode. In every Arkham game, there's a fun little feature you can access with very little effort known as Big Head Mode. Simply hold down both triggers on your controller, then spin your right joystick clockwise and left joystick counterclockwise until Batman's head and hands pop up in size. This fun feature applies to every single character in the game and can be reversed the same way you activate it. Killer Croc in Arkham City. After defeating Ra's al Ghul in Arkham City, you can backtrack the way you enter the sewer to find the gate has been locked shut. Using a remote control batarang to hit the switch that supposedly opens it will cause a jump scare where Killer Croc breaks through the wall and talks with Batman. He says he smells death on Batman and just needs to wait for his chance to eat him. Pretty fun stuff that you may have missed if you went the correct way, because this is the only time you can see this in the game. After Credits Titan Scene. After the credits of Arkham Asylum, a creative titan will float into frame in the Gotham Bay. A hand will then burst out of the water and grab onto it. This hand can either be Bane, foreshadowing his addiction in City, Killer Croc, showing that falling down the pit indeed didn't kill him, and Scarecrow, showing that he was still alive before night. Croc's hand showing up is honestly pretty irrelevant to the story going forward. There's no ambiguity in whether or not he survived like Scarecrow, and him grabbing a Titan crate has no impact on him as a character like Bane. Scarecrow was probably the most overall impactful, as it kept gamers everywhere on the edge of their seats wondering when and how he'd come back all the way back in the first game. However, Bane probably had the biggest story impact with this scene, as him grabbing the container further fed his addiction to the drug, leading to his side mission in Arkham City and subsequent story, which we'll get into in a bit. Mark Hamill. Coincidence? I think probably. This is really just proof that he was always meant to play the Joker. Clayface Joker hints. There's a lot of hints throughout Arkham City that the healthy Joker is actually Clayface. The first hint we get is after leaving to save the Doctor in the smelting chamber. Harley says, she says Joker looks perfect again, then realize that it isn't actually him. Most players probably ignored this, especially since it was somewhat muffled and at the beginning of the game. The next hint was slightly later, when Batman falls for the fake Joker gag. The player can clearly see the Joker gassing us was pretty much completely healthy, yet the Joker talking to us a little bit later is clearly not. Next is the pair of Joker cards left in Freeze's safe when Harley steals the cure. This one's a little more obscure and only makes sense in hindsight, but it's still neat to see. Another is when Batman is infiltrating the steel mill through the cooling chamber. Joker checks in with a video message where he's supposedly healthy. The person holding the camera can be heard coughing at some point, indicating that sick Joker is the one recording. And last but certainly not least is when you fight in Joker's funhouse. Entering detective mode reveals that Joker has no skeleton, which itself is a reference to Clayface back in Arkham Asylum, who also had no skeleton locked up in the penitentiary. It's a really nice set of details that makes the reveal all the better. Exploring out of bounds. There are plenty of out of bounds glitches in the Arkham games. Heck, I even got one myself unintentionally some time back. However, I think this is talking about the famous Gotham exploration glitch from back in the day. This glitch makes use of a little trick known as freeze climbing, where Batman slowly gains elevation by throwing freeze blasts. I'll leave a video in the description that goes over it better than I ever could. But the point is, people use this glitch to climb high enough to get over the Arkham City walls and explore the Gotham outside. There isn't too much to see, as it's really just a bunch of low poly models. However, there's a lot of interesting details in this area that most certainly go overlooked. While the building models are low poly, they're actually fully built and not just flat textures with optical trickery to appear to have depth. You can also see lights on the ground to represent traffic that actually move through the city. You'd probably never notice this except when you're climbing Wonder Tower at the end of the game. It's a lot of detail that they didn't need to add, but just adds a lot of life to this map. Nightfall Protocol. The Nightfall Protocol is the final contingency plan Batman has if his identity is revealed. After stopping enough of Gotham's Most Wanted for the police to take over, Bruce returns to Wayne Manor, all the press and media trying to get the biggest scoop. He walks to the front door to greet Alfred, who asks if he truly wants to do this. Bruce says he has to keep Gotham safe. He walks into the manor, and moments later, everything explodes. Everyone assumes Bruce and Alfred died in the explosion, but life actually goes on like normal. Crime goes down, and people are able to live relatively normal lives. James Gordon becomes mayor of Gotham, Tim and Barbara are getting married, but Batman is still dead. Who will protect the weak with him now gone? The camera pans to a family in an eerily similar situation as the Waynes so long ago. They get robbed by two thugs who eventually look up to the rooftops and see a shadowy figure similar to Batman. They taunt the figure, saying Batman is dead, and the look doesn't scare them anymore. The figure grows, with smoke appearing at its feet, before it expands into a large, fiery bat creature, terrifying the thugs before it swoops into the camera and cut to black. So, what the heck happened here? Well, the thing is, nobody really knows. The developers left this ending up to interpretation, and haven't revealed what it actually means. But there are quite a few theories. The most widely accepted theory is that Bruce faked his own death in the explosion, hiding in the Batcave with Alfred to survive the blast. He would then go on to become the figure that we see at the end, which ties into a later point that I may as well bring up now. Batman uses fear toxin after Arkham Knight. If this figure really is Bruce, that would mean he's using Crane's fear toxin to become this terrifying demon. However, I don't know if I subscribe to this theory. It makes sense in concept, but the way Bruce and Alfred's final conversation went down makes me think otherwise. They both sound very somber, like this is going to be their final goodbye. It makes sense with other characters because everyone needs to think Bruce is dead, but why be so somber with Alfred? Faking his own death and destroying the manor are hardly the worst thing he could do in this scenario. It really sounds like they're going through the worst case scenario and Bruce and Alfred are actually dead. However, this also plays into Batman's no-kill rule. Even in the most indirect way possible, he will not kill. So potentially sacrificing Alfred would just be wrong, even if it isn't also around to suffer the consequences. In the end, it's completely up for interpretation how this scene played out. Let me know in the comments how you interpret it, because I'd really like to know. Arkham Origins Online. Yep, Arkham Origins actually had an online mode. Set 3 years after the events of Arkham Origins Story Mode, Arkham Origins Online has Joker and Bane's gangs attempting to take over various locations for resources in what I can only assume is some kind of war. Joker and Bane's crew must take over what are essentially command posts and eliminate the other crew to win. Meanwhile, Batman and Robin attempt to intimidate the crew into abandoning the mission by taking down the thugs in unique ways. From my admittedly limited experience, this mode was incredibly fun to play. I say was because the servers were shut down not too long ago, and it's honestly pretty sad to say. This is just another great addition to Arkham Origins that always gets completely overlooked. Arkham City Wii U version. Also known as Arkham City Armored Edition, this is one of the few Arkham games on a Nintendo console, the other ones being Origins and Blackgate. This is a very weird version of Arkham City. It follows the same story beats as the original, and is otherwise unchanged, except for the strange addition of the shock gloves. Well, that and supposedly mediocre performance because it was on the underpowered Wii U. 240% golden suit. In Arkham Knight, even though it makes no sense mathematically, you can obtain a completion percentage of up to 240%. You get this for achieving the true Nightfall ending and completing Season of Infamy in both the main game and New Game Plus. Upon reaching this milestone, you get a bat suit with a golden bat emblem, the final cosmetic unlockable that you can use during AR challenges. You unfortunately can't use it during the main campaign, as you can't bring it between save files, but it's the thought that counts. I don't care much for cosmetic stuff, as I pretty much always use the base forms when playing the game, so it doesn't really interest me too much. Mobile games. To my own surprise, the Arkham series have a few mobile game titles to their name. The first was Arkham City Lockdown, and the other was simply Arkham Origins Mobile. They appear to be quick-time-based combat games where you must dodge or deflect enemy attacks before wailing on them in return. You can also use gadgets like smoke pellets and the shock gloves to make the attacking easier. I never personally played them, even though they seem like something younger me would have adored. They have full-fledged voice acting, though not all the main cast reprise their roles, cutscenes, and boss fights. They're pretty in-depth for mobile games all things considered, and a pretty good tie-in to the main series. Calendar mandates. In Arkham City, you can go into the courthouse basement to find Julian Day, aka Calendar Man. He is the only criminal locked in a traditional cell in Arkham City, and it's never explained why. Next to his cell is a calendar with 12 circled dates, each corresponding to a holiday. If you visit him while your device is set to one of those days, he will have a special message pertaining to that day. The specific holidays are New Year's, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, April Fool's, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Independence Day / 4th of July, Feast of St. Roch, Labor Day, Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. There's one more date that I didn't list, but we'll get to that later. Part 4. Deeper into the Water. Joker's therapy sessions in Arkham Asylum. At various points through Arkham Asylum, you can go to the Visitors Center to have a conversation with Joker. You can go there after just about every major plot beat and just listen to what Joker has to say. Sometimes they're serious, sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're references to the Killing Joke. But they're almost always creepy, because you're put into a first-person camera in a narrow hallway with no sound except vague ambience. More than anything though, this is just Mark Hamill stretching his Joker abilities, and I love him. Cain and Abel. Assuming you have the Catwoman DLC, the very first image you see is a painting of Cain and Abel, the duality of man. These two are the brothers responsible for the first murder in the Bible. As the story goes, Cain murdered Abel out of jealousy, and the painting depicts him carrying his brother's corpse through a barren wasteland. This is directly referenced at the end of the game where Batman carries Joker's body out of Arkham City, except you may notice that in this case, the roles are reversed. Cain was the first murderer in the Bible, while Batman did not murder Joker, instead failing to save him. This brings up an interesting question. More than likely, if Cain was the one to die in the original story, Abel failing to save him, he would have walked his body the same way. So if Cain, the bad one, would walk his brother's corpse after purposely killing him, would Joker have done the same after killing Batman? This shows off Batman and Joker's unique relationship. Batman cannot exist without the Joker, and the Joker cannot exist without Batman. They're symbiotic in nature despite being opposing forces. It's great that this series was able to represent that so well while also foreshadowing the finale without any of us realizing. Joker singing Only You. During the credits of Arkham City, Joker sends Batman a message from beyond the grave. It's a recording of him singing the song Only You. This is another reference to the relationship these characters have at this point. Batman is not Batman without the Joker, and Joker has no purpose without Batman. Joker likely realized his time was going to be up, and preemptively sent this message knowing it would mess with Batman even while he was gone.
Only you can make the darkness bright.
Arkham Asylum anti-piracy measures. As anyone who's seen my channel can tell you, Rocksteady put a very sneaky anti-piracy measure into Arkham Asylum. Well, actually, they put two. The one we here on the Clown Puncher 139 channel know and love is the broken gliding. If the game detects you have a pirated copy, it will completely disable Batman's gliding capabilities, reducing them to making Batman look like he's trying to fly like Archeops. As I'm sure you all know, it is actually possible to beat the game without gliding. So, theoretically, this measure is now void, right? Well, there's one more most people don't know about, and that's the broken grappling. At various points in the game, Batman's grapple gun will be completely disabled. Randomly, I might add, every time the game is played. So you can get super far into the game only to have a required grapple point disabled, completely screwing you over. However, that isn't the end of it. There's one more sneaky effect the devs threw in that I absolutely love. At random points in the game, a grapple icon will appear in the middle of your screen. If you choose to press the grapple button, Batman will grapple somewhere far out of bounds and be stuck in the void forever, meaning your grapple gun could straight up soft lock you. These are all incredibly hilarious measures the devs didn't need to go through the effort of adding, but they did. So when people complained about it online, they got outed as pirates. With all that said, since I know you can beat the game without gliding, I want to try something. If anyone can tell me how to get a pirated copy of Arkham Asylum for the Xbox 360, or a way to make the game think it's been pirated on Xbox 360, please let me know. I genuinely want to try to beat the actual pirated version of this game after already conquering one of its setbacks. Calendar Man at Wayne Manor. In Arkham City, the aforementioned secret date you can visit Calendar Man on is the date of Rocksteady's founding, December 13th, 2004. Setting your clock to that specific date will have Calendar Man give this unique dialogue.
Well, well, well. And on today of all days, do you remember my early work? Flawed, but it showed promise. Just like you. As your skills improved, I perfected mine. Starting with seasons and moving through the weeks, I became stronger. My work more elaborate. Days were the secret, Batman, and the end of days is coming. I was there at your beginning, and I will be there at your end.
This has been interpreted a number of ways, the most noteworthy being the allegory it has to Rocksteady itself. Rocksteady had a rocky start, to say the least. Before Batman, they only had a single game to their name, which was a mixed reception FPS. Warner Bros. Took a massive chance on them for Batman, and as we all know, they gave us Arkham Asylum. As Calendar Man says, it was flawed, but showed great promise. As their game development skills improved, so too did their Batman games, as they gave us Arkham City. Their games have become more elaborate, and the end was coming in the form of Arkham Knight. With their final game in the trilogy in development, they would be there at Batman's start and there at his end, even while other studios stepped in to take the helm for a game or two. It's a really nice sentiment toward the player for finding this date. They allowed Rocksteady to grow better and more elaborate as they went along, and soon, the end would be upon them. Hey, get to the title of the segment! Oh yeah, and Calendar Man was serious when he said he'll be there at Batman's end, as you can see his head during the chaos at Wayne Manor during Nightfall Protocol cutscene in Night. See? There he is. One of these descriptions seems a lot less important than the other. Harley's pregnancy, and Harley singing after New Game Plus. In the manager's office of the steel mill in Arkham City, you can look at the floor by Harley's asylum outfit to find a pregnancy test. It reads negative, but that didn't stop Harley from trying. In the DLC for City, Harley Quinn's Revenge, the same office now has a baby crib with a bunch of negative tests strewn about on the floor, and the puppet Scarface sitting inside with a single positive test. It's unknown if this test is actually positive, since the test box says that false positives are possible. However, Harley singing at the end of New Game Plus implies otherwise.
Shh, there. Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna kill for you the whole damn world.
She's singing a messed up version of Hush Little Baby, where she claims she'll kill the whole damn world for it. This only appears at the very end of the credits after beating New Game Plus. I tried to hear it once, but got really bored of waiting through the credits, so just didn't bother. But this implies Harley was pregnant with the Joker's child at the end of City. I don't know if I believe it myself, since, let's face it, the Joker doesn't exactly like Harley, let alone enough to do the deed. Arkham Asylum takes place in June, while Arkham City takes place the same year in December. Harley appears as thin as ever in both appearances, though there is a 6-month gap between the games that just about anything could have happened off-screen. However, Scarface being in the baby crib implies there was never a baby to begin with, or worse, a miscarriage, and Harley is using that to cope in some form. I doubt the miscarriage, since Scarface, the crib, and all the negative tests only appeared during Harley Quinn's Revenge rather than during the main game, where we can see that Harley definitely doesn't have a discernible baby bump. It's all really strange, but it doesn't come back in Arkham Knight anyway, so who cares? Croc in the Iceberg Lounge. In the Iceberg Lounge challenge map, you can see Killer Croc in the background, chilling with a rocks glass and a cigar. Nobody really knew why he was here, especially since he barely plays a role in City to begin with, only showing up as a limited time Easter egg. This is the case in City at least. In Night, this challenge map returned, along with Croc, and after achieving a whopping 1 million points, enemies will stop spawning and Croc will jump into the ring, triggering the same fight with Nightwing in Season of Infamy. Knocking him out gets you an achievement, and he's out of commission for the rest of the challenge. This was a really nice callback on Rocksteady's part, as we still don't know to this day why Croc was originally in the Iceberg Lounge. Alternate ending for Arkham City. If you have the Catwoman DLC for Arkham City, you gain 4 extra missions sprinkled throughout the main story. A third of these takes place just before Protocol 10 begins. It has Catwoman invade Strange's confiscated goods vault to steal cases of money and escape Arkham City. While collecting the cases, Protocol 10 begins, and the roof above Batman in the steel mill collapses. A monitor with a camera feed showing Batman knocked out gives Selina a difficult choice. Does she help Batman, or escape with the money? If she chooses the latter, the credits roll and a message can be heard from Oracle. She claims that Batman has died, Joker has won, and asks if someone out there can help. Before we can find out if she gets it, the game rewinds back to the vault and the player is given the choice again. This ending is obviously non-canon, but it is interesting that Rocksteady even had this option in the game, just to break the fourth wall on us once again. Alternate Arkham Knight intro. When playing Arkham Knight on New Game Plus, you get a slightly different outcome to Joker's cremation. Normally you just watch his body burn and hear Gordon's narration. However, on New Game Plus, Joker suddenly springs back to life with a scream and a laugh, declaring,
This is how it happened. This is how the Joker died.
Once again proving that Rocksteady knows how to do jump scares. Azrael watching Bruce Wayne. During the intro sequence of Arkham City, just after Bruce talks with Jack Ryder, he's thrown right into the city. I'm sure most of you are too focused on the inmates and eventual combat of this section, but if you look up and to the right, you can actually see Azrael watching Bruce from the rooftops. This implies he also knows Batman's secret identity, hence all the prophecy stuff you come across later. But it's a nice attention to detail seeing Azrael watching Bruce as early as the intro to the game. Guardians disappearing from Wonder City. During Protocol 10, you can return to Wonder City. If you do, you see that all the mechanical guardians you scanned earlier in the game have been piled up in the middle. Going back at any point after that will reveal that all the guardians are now missing. Where did they go? Well, you can find out by playing Harley Quinn's Revenge. At the end of this story, it's revealed that the guardians were repurposed to be fighting robots for Harley made to kill Batman. So my guess is that Joker sent his crew down there to collect the Guardians, but the Tiger Guards got in the way and killed all of them, hence why the first thing you hear upon entering the area is, "That's the last one, area secure." These guards just gunned down the thugs that were trying to make away with the Guardians. But after Tiger is shut down, the thugs are sent back down to get them, hence why they're missing. It's a really cool detail, especially when they reappear in Harley Quinn's Revenge. Demo versions. Back in 2009, Rocksteady released Arkham Asylum to the public. Before it got those raving reviews, however, they released a demo version for completely free. This demo started at the beginning of the game and lasted all the way through the first Predator section. It played out exactly the same as the base game and ended with a trailer showing off everything else you can expect from this incredible game. All things considered, this is a really great demo, giving the players a great tease of the story to come while also introducing them to every major gameplay feature they can expect from this game. I never personally got to play it because I was introduced to this series on accident, but the fact it existed at all is really something. Joker playable in Arkham Asylum. If you had the PlayStation 3 version of Arkham Asylum, you were able to play as Joker in his own challenge maps. These maps played out the same as Batman's various challenges for you to achieve in the shortest time possible. However, you play as Joker. Joker played completely differently from Batman, especially in Predator sections. He has a set of chattering teeth that walk around and explode, a pair of X-ray specs that act just like Batman's detective vision, except Joker must stand still to use them, and a freaking gun that immediately kills an enemy but gives off a lot of noise. These gadgets, combined with Joker's more comedic fighting style, make Joker a very unique addition to Arkham Asylum. It's a shame this character never made a return in any other Arkham game, especially when they added so many characters in Night. Although it's also bullcrap that this edition was exclusive to the PlayStation version, so my Xbox self couldn't experience it. Scarecrow thugs appearing during Protocol 10. While Strange is striking Arkham City with missiles, there are a lot of bodies on the ground of this prison. You can find out just how many in the Arkham City Slay Sum. Most likely you'll see Joker thugs, Two-Face thugs, etc. However, some of them don't appear to belong to any of the major factions. There's a small selection of thugs wearing strange masks, very similar to Scarecrow's, although these masks are more similar to his mask in Batman Begins than anything in the Arkham Saga. People theorize that these were Scarecrow thugs, which combined with all the other hints of Scarecrow in this game, just cemented their beliefs. However, we still really don't know if these thugs were actually meant to be Scarecrows, or if they were just some kind of glitch. These thug types never appeared during any other point of this game, or any point of Arkham Knight. And the world may never know their true intent, as Rocksteady never confirmed what they were meant to be. Abramovici twins. The Abramovici twins, Mr. Hammer and Sickle, were a pair of conjoined twins abandoned by their parents to the circus at a young age. As they grew older, their strength was unmatched, despite their conjoined nature, as they killed a tiger that attacked the audience. Hearing of their strength, Joker and Harley killed the circus owner and captured the brothers for their own use. However, Joker saw their combined nature as a hindrance in battle, and hired Hush to separate the two. Thinking he only needed one giant, he dumped Sickle on Penguin's doorstep, who was promptly brought in. After the events of Arkham City and Batman defeating both brothers in battle, they can be found reunited in the Steel Mill, saying that they'll begin working together as an unstoppable duo. Strange in Arkham Origins. Hugo Strange doesn't make a direct appearance in Arkham Origins, but he does make an indirect influence on the story. He works as a psychiatrist at Blackgate, and has treated inmates such as Alberto Falcone, the guy Penguin was torturing before we interrupted him. Furthermore, Harleen Quinzel interned under him before she transferred to Arkham. So, in a way, Strange is responsible for Joker escaping and the riot that ensued. If Harley was interning under him, only he could have assigned her to psychoanalyze Joker. This was obviously unintentional, but it is interesting to think that Strange unintentionally set the riot, and likely the Joker himself, into motion for the rest of the saga. Amadeus Arkham lore. Amadeus Arkham was the founder of the Elizabeth Arkham Asylum for the criminally insane. He personally treated its first patient, Martin Mad Dog Hawkins, who killed his wife and daughter. Unfortunately, he administered fatal electric shock treatment to Hawkins, which made him lose his sanity, admitting him into his own asylum. Years down the line, he passed away and was buried in the asylum's cemetery. Eventually, Quincy Sharp would take the role of warden in the asylum, but not without a few consequences. Sharp became obsessed with Amadeus, eventually convincing himself that Amadeus's ghost had risen from his grave and was now wandering the asylum halls. This delusion supposedly talked to him, convincing him to secretly stalk and kill some of his patients. The Spirit of Arkham scattered several encrypted tablets across the asylum, detailing the story of Amadeus's life and eventual descent into madness. It's implied that the ghost of Amadeus himself was scattering these tablets. However, it's revealed at the end of the game that they were actually written by Quincy Sharp, who believed he was the reincarnation of Amadeus Arkham. 4-25. This one's a little hard to explain, so bear with me. Back in 2016, Rocksteady released some DLC for Arkham Knight, which were Wayne Manor challenge maps. On one of these maps, you could go to the piano to open a secret panel. The panel revealed a bunch of hidden details that aren't entirely relevant and one glaring point of interest: a drawing of a large cell with the numbers 4-25 written above it. For a few months, people were speculating what this number might mean, and pretty much nobody got it right. Most believed that it meant something would be teased or revealed on April 25th of that year, namely Return to Arkham, which had been leaked around the time these maps were released. Well, the 25th came and went, and nothing. Not even a tweet from Rocksteady marking the occasion. A few months later, Batman Arkham VR released, and people finally found out what 425 meant. It was the Joker's cell number in the asylum. So was this just a tease for Arkham VR? Possibly, but not necessarily. This cell is the final resting place of the Arkham Saga. As of now, Batman being locked in cell 425 is the final piece of content we've gotten out of the Arkham franchise. It's not the last timeline-wise, but it is the last content-wise. So I think this was Rocksteady teasing the fact that this cell was going to be the final resting place of the series. It's not the best use of a tease, I will admit, but it's a pretty nice sentiment nonetheless. Also, April 25th was the date the Joker was created, so there's that too. Part 5. Even Deeper. Tiger Guards never had free will. As messed up as that sounds, it's completely true. Every Tiger Guard you see throughout the game is actually just a brainwashed ex-soldier or ex-Special Forces member. Tiger itself is a private military hired by Quincy Sharp and Hugo Strange to oversee Arkham City. Unbeknownst to the general public, every member of Tiger was brainwashed by Strange to be his unquestioning soldiers. This is why you see them so organized and collected throughout Arkham City. They were trained by Strange to be the perfect soldiers for killing Batman. Notice how collected they are compared to the militia from Arkham Knight. They also had a third party training them on everything they needed to beat Batman. Yet they are unorganized, unprofessional, and afraid. Notice a small detail from Arkham City. Tiger Guards are never terrified. It's a difficult detail to always notice, but every other group of thugs will inevitably grow from calm to nervous to terrified. Even when there is only one Tiger Guard left, he will never be terrified. That is not something you can train to do. Human instincts will always overtake training, no matter how arduous. Strange brainwashed them to be unflinching soldiers that don't fall for Batman's scare tactics. It's incredibly messed up, but also a really cool detail that makes Tiger the most dangerous force Batman has ever dealt with. Secret Room in Arkham Asylum. In the Warden's office of Arkham Asylum, you can find a secret room behind this wall. Simply spray 3 explosive gels onto the center of the wall and blow them up to reveal a secret room displaying the plans for Arkham City. When Rocksteady was brought on to make a Batman game, they wanted to make it much bigger than the Arkham Asylum we got. They actually wanted to make Arkham City from the very beginning. However, their ambitions were too much for WB, so they cut them off before they got too far. They had to prove themselves first. And so, they made Arkham Asylum as a way to prove they were more than capable of making an awesome superhero game, allowing them to make the one they really wanted. They put this room in Arkham Asylum because they knew they wanted to make this game next, and they knew Arkham Asylum would go over well. They hid it to get players hyped for the next game before they even announced it, similar to another item you'll see later. However, nobody found this room. For nearly a year, this Easter egg went completely undiscovered. It wasn't until Arkham City was revealed to the public that Rocksteady themselves had to give away this secret. It was that well hidden. There were no indications on the wall to spray with gel, and thinking to spray 3 times in the same spot of this random wall was just ludicrous. It was an amazingly well-kept secret that they unfortunately couldn't replicate in future titles. Jason was a thug in Polly's diner. During the diner sequence of Arkham Knight, you approach a patron wearing a hood before the nightmare sequence begins. People have theorized that this random thug is actually Jason Todd, aka the Arkham Knight. The reasons being a little flimsy if I'm being honest. Obviously, the patron is wearing a red hood, which is what Jason becomes after the events of Night, and you can see an A scratched into the table, a reference to the infamous Arkham A. Most notably, however, is that this thug's file name is Demon Jason Todd. It's certainly possible, but I don't know if I believe it. If Jason was the one to release the fear toxin, he would be affected by it too, no? Fear gas can't be stopped by gas masks, and there is no known cure except sheer willpower. Considering what Jason went through with Joker, I wouldn't say he has the same willpower Batman has to overcome the toxin. And actually, I think I have a better idea for who this character could be. Anarchy. Think about it. Anarchy is nowhere to be seen in Arkham Knight, even though there's some thugs that remark about how much he would have loved the Knight. So, the developers acknowledge his existence from Origins, yet don't put him in the game? That just doesn't make sense. Furthermore, all the reasons this guy could have been Jason apply to Anarchy as well. Red Hood? Check. A symbol? Check. And it even fits more with Anarchy because of how the middle line passes through the arches like Anarchy's symbol in Origins. And since he isn't plot relevant, it doesn't matter if he gets exposed to the fear toxin. Furthermore, look at this newsflash we get just before Scarecrow appears. We obviously don't know what happened to the thug after he hit Owens, but look at this one specific guide they point out on screen. Potentially the same open jacket with a brownish red hood? I don't think the news would zoom in on a random, potentially dead body unless it had significance. I think they were pointing out the suspected attacker after he slammed Owens against the table and tried running away, but was overcome by the toxin. It's entirely possible that after 6+ years, the kid we knew as Anarchy in Origins grew up into this man here. Scarecrow found him, recruited him, and we got ourselves a story. Obviously, this is all speculation, but it certainly has a lot more evidence than the Jason theory. Man-Bat escaping on Halloween. If you complete the Man-Bat side quests in Arkham Knight and set your system's clock to Halloween, you get a special scene. Heading back to the GCPD, and you'll see that Dr. Langstrom has escaped his cell, breaking straight through the glass and is now on the loose. It's pretty terrifying since this is technically canon. Man-Bat was never actually caught and is now roaming Gotham completely free once again. And with Batman now gone, who's going to bring him back to normal? Hush and the Church in Arkham City. After saving the doctors from Joker's goons in Arkham City, head to the back wall behind the confessionals. You know, where the idiot was hiding. On the back wall, you can see a man with bandages all over his face clutching an organ box. This is, of course, Hush before he killed his final 3 victims. His previous 3 victims' faces are likely in this box, and his own face is totally gone, hence why he's currently bandaged up. He likely makes his escape when Riddler takes the rest of the church gang hostage for his game. Zsasz in Arkham Knight. After Barbara gets kidnapped in Arkham Knight, Batman must find clues to find her using security cameras. If you scrub all the way to the end of the footage, you can see Zsasz pop into frame in the bottom corner, then walk away just like that. He's up to his old tricks even while the city is in chaos. Never change, Victor. Bane returned to Santa Prisca. That's about as cut and dry as you can get it. After his outing in Arkham City, Bane left Gotham as he started to fight his Venom/Titan addiction. After a long, painful withdrawal, he returned to Santa Prisca to find his home in the middle of a bloody turf war between drug lords amped up on Venom. Many innocents, including children, had been killed, so he decided to fight. He killed the 12 most powerful drug lords and lined their decapitated heads on a beach. So yeah, that's one way to put yourself back on the map. But hey, good for Bane getting clean and using his power for good. Luke Oliver. In the Arkham Asylum Penitentiary, there's one inmate in particular, aside from Clayface, that doesn't get released. This random inmate known only as Luke Oliver appears to only have one arm, is quietly muttering to himself, and is leaning against the glass of his cell. While Detective Mode reveals that he does indeed have two arms, his other is just perfectly hidden behind his back. This guy is actually the winner of a contest held by Rocksteady in 2008, where first place would have their face rendered somewhere in Arkham Asylum. What a lucky guy. ArkhamCare.com. While rescuing the doctors in Arkham Asylum, there's an infomercial playing in the hallways advertising how great Arkham Asylum is. One thing they specifically advertise is their website, ArkhamCare.com. This was an actual website made to promote the game, which is sadly gone now. In its place is a website for the actual Arkham, Massachusetts, which isn't nearly as interesting. It's still possible to access through sites like WebArchive, but it's a little bit broken and I'm not patient enough to look through it myself. I'm sure there's plenty of videos explaining this better than I could, especially since I never saw it back in the day, so go check out one of those if you wish. Harley Quinn Cube. Only a few years ago, the Batman Arkham Games channel found a very interesting Easter egg in Arkham Asylum. After defeating Zsasz the first time, you can go out of bounds to discover a cube whose texture is an old Harley Quinn drawing from Paul Dini. It's currently unknown what purpose this cube serves. As far as we know, it doesn't seem to be like TF2's Coconut, where removing it completely breaks the game, so it must simply be a fun Easter egg from the developers. However, it's unknown why it was only placed out of bounds, never to be found by regular players. I mean, heck, it took us 8 years to find, so I guess it really doesn't matter too much. Tiny's fate. After having his nose beaten by Batman in Arkham City, Tiny the Shark was moved to an unknown location in Bloodhaven. You can see this during the Nightwing DLC in Arkham Knight, where Dick infiltrates said location to discover Penguin is about to escape GCPD. Going up to the tank will have Tiny appear out of the hazy background and slam into the glass, cracking it. Once again, a great jump scare by Rocksteady. Secret radio messages. In Arkham City, you can pull out the cryptographic sequencer and listen into radio chatter. Obviously, you have the Tiger and Penguin channels you have to hack during the main story, and these two that only serve as fodder to fill out the screen. But there's 3 more that are completely hidden from the player. They appear at frequencies 700 by 500, 500 by 900, and 200 by 500. All they are is a long string of numbers that can be read as letters using different ciphers. I recommend you watch this video if you want to learn more about them. But after deciphering them, they read, "I will return, Batman. You will pay for what you have done to me, and fear will tear Gotham to shreds." As you'd expect, this was teasing the return of someone. But who? Maybe the next point will give us some clues. Fear gas in Arkham City. In the second Riddler room, the one with the rigged cup game, you can find canisters of fear toxin. They're hidden behind the gates at the back of the room and can easily be seen with a remote-controlled batarang. We know it's fear toxin because these same canisters appeared in Arkham Asylum as a riddle, which revealed them as such. Why they're in a riddle room is unknown, nor why they're here as Scarecrow not by Croc in Asylum, but maybe the next layer will reveal why. Ivy isn't dead. I mean, yeah, she is. But there were a lot of theories going around after her death in Night because of this little flower that sprouts outside the botanical gardens. People believed she somehow transferred her consciousness into the earth or something, and it was beginning to manifest as this plant. But I don't really believe it. There's basically no evidence except this plant existing, and it's not like she transferred consciousness to another entity before. Plus, that would just be a really lame cop-out after her great ending in Night, fighting and dying for the city she initially despised. Assault on Arkham. Batman Assault on Arkham was a 2014 direct-to-DVD animated film tie-in to the Arkham franchise. It takes place about 2 years before the events of Arkham Asylum, and surprisingly doesn't follow Batman too much. It actually follows the Suicide Squad in their attempt to break into Arkham Asylum, where they must face both Batman and the asylum's inmates. The film was able to get a decent amount of the main cast back for their roles, with Kevin Conroy as Batman, Troy Baker reprising his origins role as Joker, and even Nolan North as Penguin. I haven't personally had the chance to watch it myself, but it has been very positively received as a whole, so I'll definitely have to give it a watch soon. Ratcatcher. Despite never appearing on screen, and let's face it, being a complete nobody to most people, Ratcatcher has a surprising amount of lore behind him in the Arkham series. For those unaware, myself included, Ratcatcher was originally a regular ratcatcher in Gotham. However, he eventually used his natural gift to control rats to stage a variety of crimes, leading to him being sent to Blackgate and the Asylum over the years. However, due to his control of the rats, he was just as dangerous inside the prison as out. While at Arkham, he was presumably treated by Dr. Young while his gear was confiscated. However, he was able to retrieve it and hide it inside the botanical gardens. Unfortunately, during Joker's takeover, he was unable to retrieve it while making his escape, so it remained there for Batman to find. After Joker was apprehended and Arkham City eventually opened, Ratcatcher was taken into custody and thrown into the city, where, again, he does not appear in the game but instead plays out an interesting background story. Before the events of City, he opened up a market where he sold items his rats were able to dig up from the sewers for a little profit. However, Penguin, being the man with everything, didn't like that he had some competition, so he had his goons drag Ratcatcher into the museum where he was supposed to suffer an ironic fate, being fed to the rats. When the rats didn't comply though, he was thrown in with Tiny to supposedly die. Somehow though, he didn't, and had a little story before the events of Arkham Knight. His encounter with Penguin left him disfigured with his left eye and arm missing. Hush, disguised as Bruce Wayne, entered his domain with some police officers and Ratcatcher sicked his rat minions on them. It killed the officers and temporarily incapacitated Hush. Before he could actually kill Hush, the Arkham Knight entered the scene to knock Ratcatcher down and begin tasing him and his rat minions. Batman later arrived to the scene of the crime to find Ratcatcher's charred corpse. That's a pretty dark fate for a guy we've never seen on screen. And kind of a shame too. Ratcatcher sounds like he could have been a fun addition to the Arkham Saga just because of how weird it is. I'd have liked to seen him anyway. Killer Moth died. Another villain I'd actually have liked to see is Killer Moth, mostly because of inclusion in LEGO Batman Sue Me. Killer Moth is another pretty unknown villain. He's basically just a gun for hire with surprisingly ingenious inventions, including a cocoon gun not too dissimilar to something Spider-Man would use. Unlike Ratcatcher though, Killer Moth doesn't have nearly as interesting a story in the Arkham Saga. His career started after Arkham Origins with Batgirl's origin. His goal was to kill the newly promoted Commissioner Gordon while keeping Batman distracted on the other side of the city. He failed as Batgirl stepped in to help Batman and save her own father. He was eventually sent to Arkham, where he was one of the many to escape during Joker's rampage. And that was all we had until Arkham Knight, where after Batman's presumed death, Killer Moth decided it was safe to resume crime again. However, he was unfortunate enough to cross paths with Red Hood, who didn't hesitate to kill him. Kind of a shame because despite having a pretty silly gimmick, Killer Moth actually sounds like he was a bit of a threat. I would have loved to see him, especially after facing him so many times in LEGO Batman. Prometheus. And we're 3 for 3 on missed opportunity villains with Prometheus. Prometheus is basically the anti-Batman. He was raised by criminals who he watched get gunned down by police officers. He traveled the world to learn the ways of murder, and his skills rival Batman in ways rarely seen in the Arkham Saga. And what's worse is that there's even less information about him than the other two. His only appearance is as a very basic biography in Arkham Asylum, with little more than a single riddle to his name. He got no attention in the side comics or any Arkham stories like the previous two. He wasn't even one of the escapees of the Asylum incident. He was long gone before Joker even attacked. Which is really a shame because they could have done a lot of interesting stuff with him, especially in Arkham Knight. Seriously, how cool would it have been if Prometheus was working with the Knight and Deathstroke, making their army all the more deadly? However, it is worth noting that he was considered for the Season of Infamy along with Black Mask, but was ultimately dropped. This was likely due to being a new face in the final DLC expansion, rather than a returning villain with a notable story arc. This is probably the biggest villain loss on Rocksteady's part. I can understand Ratcatcher and Killer Moth as they're really just advanced criminals and probably considered B tier at most. But Prometheus appears to be on Deathstroke levels of threat to Batman, and has an interesting parallel to the Dark Knight basically being his opposite. There was a lot they could have done with him, even if it was just another extended city story like the other two. The Court of Owls. There's a little bit of Court of Owls lore in Arkham Origins. We now know this organization is going to be the main antagonists of Gotham Knights, something completely separate from Arkham, but it's interesting that WB Montreal put all these Easter eggs in anyway. First is a book with their famous poem in the basement of Pioneer's Bridge, and second is a pair of statues of the Gotham Royal that appear to bear resemblance to the court's Talon enforcers. And that's about it, but it does hint towards the fact that the court is indeed in the Arkham universe. For those unaware, the Court of Owls is basically a secret organization made up of Gotham's highest elites that has existed since Gotham's colonial times. They basically make sure everything in the city's underground runs smoothly. If anyone threatens to interfere with their organization, they have lethal assassins known as Talons capable of making anyone disappear. It is sad that we never got to see them in action like we will in Gotham Knights, especially because of how much power the court has over Gotham, but beggars can't be choosers. I at least got to see them in the Gotham TV show, so I guess I'll take that. Sharp killed himself. Yeah, remember old Sharpie from Asylum in City? Well, after the events of City unfolded and Sharp was found to be partially responsible for everything that went down there, he was sent to prison. While in custody, he was shown all the proof that he was responsible, which of course he tried to deny, but signatures don't lie. He realized then and there that his legacy and reputation were ruined beyond repair. With some final encouragement from hallucinations of Strange, he hanged himself from his cell's light fixture with his bed sheets. There's a lot of other backstory involving Sharp, but that's a discussion for another time. Part 6. Bottom of the Iceberg. Secret boat entrance in Arkham City. Oh yeah, Scarecrow has a secret barge in Arkham City, and all those radio messages were from him. You can access it by going onto this hatch and pulling out the cryptographic sequencer. Batman will begin hacking an incredibly difficult panel with the password City of Terror. Hopping inside will force you into a first-person camera where you can only go down a dark, narrow hallway. Crates filled with insects and barely functioning lights line the wall, and a singular thug sits at the back. Investigating him closer by zooming in on him will cause him to jump alive for a split second and scream, before collapsing back into his chair, presumably dying. This was the biggest tease of Scarecrow returning for Arkham Knight that players found pretty much immediately. Unlike the Warden's office in Arkham Asylum, which players literally never found, players were very quick to find Scarecrow's barge in Arkham City, giving away the big reveal just like that. It's honestly hilarious that Rocksteady could hide a secret so well the first time, then have their second secret found basically as soon as the game was released. Starro in Batgirl DLC. In the Arkham Knight DLC, A Matter of Family, Joker takes over an abandoned sea-theme amusement park. Behind a hidden grate in the park is a secret room with only a single object, a tank with a large starfish inside. This starfish is actually an incredibly powerful alien conqueror known as Starro. Starro was the first villain the Justice League ever faced. He's capable of spawning millions of miniature versions of himself that take over the mind of whoever they attach themselves to. Starro is one of the most powerful villains in the DC universe, and seeing him barely contained behind a small glass panel is honestly terrifying. Even as someone who doesn't know anything about the comics, or Starro for that matter, this room is still incredibly unsettling. It's a dark, empty room with nothing but a large tank containing a giant starfish who's stuck right up against the glass. On top of that, it has an eye where its mouth should be that follows you around, and another you can't really see on its back. It's incredibly unsettling, and I love it. Talia's missing body. During the finale of Arkham City, Talia al Ghul is killed by a shot in the back from Joker. After Batman lays her body down, it mysteriously vanishes from the scene, not showing up at any point in the cutscene or after the fight, even though logistically it would show up somewhere while Batman is fighting Clayface. This could mean a lot of things, but honestly is probably just a mistake on the developer's part. Joker ran for president. In the Arkham timeline, Joker apparently ran for president of the United States. Some militia remarked that he apparently did try running for the president, complete with his own TV spots. Meanwhile, other militia members wonder how he even got on the ballot in the first place. It's pretty funny that this happened in the Arkhamverse, and frankly is a pretty funny jab at American politics as a whole. Why can't a murderous psychopath become president of the United States? He probably got more votes than all the other third parties too. Do not spin this entry into praise or hate for your political party in the comments, or I will ban you from this channel. Scarecrow's face in Arkham Knight. Scarecrow without his hood looks pretty dang creepy in Arkham Knight, as if he needed any help in that regard. It pretty much confirms that he has no lips or nose, and all this stuff on his face literally is his face. All this ripped material that looks like flowing cloth? Nah man, that's just straight up his skin peeling off. It's a miracle Scarecrow is so well spoken in this game because he doesn't even have lips capable of forming half the sounds in the English alphabet. Seriously, Croc did not mess around when he dragged Crane under the water. He messed him up big time. Secret Riddler Room in Arkham City, also known as Arkham City Blue Hell. For those unaware, Blue Hell is a pretty common gaming term that just means out of bounds. So anytime you see someone pulling out of bounds shenanigans in speedrunning, they're entering Blue Hell. Anyway, the one of interest for this entry is in the Industrial District and can be achieved by doing some clipping shenanigans at this building here, which doubles as a Riddler Room. Entering the door from this side will confuse the game, loading you on the wrong side of the door in the rail room. While in this out-of-bounds state, you can see a model of Riddler off to the side, just kinda standing there, and this actually gives us some pretty interesting knowledge about how these rooms work. Remember how Riddler has these projections of himself in all the rooms? Well, what this tells us is that these sequences aren't pre-rendered and just play over the screen. They actually take place in real time and are transferred to the projection as the model performs the programmed actions. That's actually pretty unique, and I can't say if this would improve or hurt the overall performance of the game. I'm assuming it would improve, otherwise why wouldn't they have just pre-rendered it? But it's pretty cool nonetheless to just get some interesting game knowledge just from sneaking out of bounds in a Riddler room. Strange has a batsuit. Many iterations of Hugo Strange show that he has his own batsuit because he wants to be the Batman himself. Well, this is no different in Arkham City. We never see it directly, however, in Riddler's interview tapes it is revealed that it does indeed exist. Riddler casually notes a panel in Strange's office which hides a replica batsuit, how he wears it and cries into his hands, wondering if he's worthy. It's interesting to hear this after seeing Strange as nothing but a calm, collected figure throughout the entirety of Arkham City. Titan Joker concept art. You thought Titan Joker was stupid? Well, take a look at this early concept art. This thing is honestly terrifying, and I kinda wish we got it instead of the Titan Joker we all know and hate. The question being, however, is how would this change the final boss? It doesn't really make sense to put this thing into the ring with Batman, and the whole Backcloth thing wouldn't make any sense at all. So what would they have done? Personally, the design of the long, lanky limbs almost makes me think that this would be a stealth boss of some kind. Like, you're thrown into a dark room, and now Batman becomes the prey that Joker hunts down by lurking in the dark. Joker could hang off walls and pounce down on Batman as he tries to find him before the attack and knock him down for a chance to attack. I think that could have been pretty cool and seems plausible with some of the other bosses in this game turning Batman into the prey, namely Killer Croc and Scarecrow. It would make sense with the design too, so I don't know why they scrapped this concept. Straitjacket Henchman. During the development of Arkham Asylum, another insane enemy was planned to appear. It would have functioned similarly to the other insane henchmen running around and chasing Batman down to jump on him, but these guys would have wielded blunt weapons. It was scrapped during early stages of development for unknown reasons, though likely due to its similarity to the other insane inmates. However, a model of their head can still be found in a jar in the sanatorium. Unfortunately, the video revealing this find has since been privated, so I can't see what the jar actually looks like, but this is the head model I'm talking about, so go nuts finding it yourself. Batman fought Kano. No, this is not a reference to Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe, this is actually backing up to the mobile games we discussed earlier. In Arkham City Lockdown, Kano from the Mortal Kombat franchise makes a guest appearance as a boss for Batman to fight. This is because Arkham City Lockdown was developed by NetherRealm Studios, the same studio that made Mortal Kombat 9. It's almost certainly not canon, but an interesting piece of trivia nonetheless. Edward Burke's voice tapes. In the Batgirl DLC for Arkham Knight, you can travel around the amusement park to find voice recordings of Edward Burke, the father who created this park for his daughter. His tapes reveal a surprising amount of backstory for this place, most notably that he was colleagues with Dr. Quinzel, who was actually the one who suggested he build this park in the first place. Down the line, his daughter only got more and more sick, but Harleen introduced Edward to a friend of hers, Jack White, who most of you should recognize as an alias of the Joker. Jack gave Edward a lot of ideas for the park that he supposedly ended up implementing. He also introduced Edward to Dr. Penelope Young from Arkham Asylum. For a short time, his daughter's condition seemed to be improving. When inspectors tried shutting down the park, Jack was able to convince them to change their minds and leave the park be. However, after a long enough time, Edward's daughter passed away, and the park just wasn't ready. She died before she could see the park, and Edward was left completely distraught. Quinzel convinced him that life just wasn't worth living anymore, because the pain would be too unbearable. And Jack gave him special medication to make the process completely painless. Edward leaves the park to Jack and hopes he can make something better of it than he could. The last thing we hear from Edward is a manic laugh, followed by what sounds like him choking out. by God, this story is freaking dark. Not only does it imply Joker and Quinn basically killed Edward's daughter, but they took advantage of him in his most vulnerable state to reap massive rewards. They basically emotionally manipulated him for their own gain of an entire amusement park, and they didn't even let him go out on his own terms. They had to kill him in the most brutal way possible with Joker toxin. That is seriously messed up, and by God is it amazing. Barcode on GCPD officer's head. In Arkham City, one of the police officers from Gordon's strike team that infiltrates the museum has a barcode on the side of his head. I'm pretty sure it's Officer Michaels, but I can't confirm as of writing this, and there's basically no footage on the matter. Regardless of who it is, it's certainly strange. It's impossible to scan, but that makes sense, since barcodes can only be scanned when they're connected to a certain system. It could be a reference to the Hitman series, but Agent 47's barcode is on the back of his head, while the officer has his on his side, so it's kinda just there. Maybe it was just a character design decision, and this is just what the officer wanted as a tattoo. Who knows? Joker at the VGA 2011. The 2011 Video Game Awards had a category for Best Character. The nominees were Wheatley from Portal 2, Marcus Phoenix from Gears of War, Nathan Drake from Uncharted, and the Joker from Arkham City. All of these characters had specially animated segments thanking the audience for the nomination. Wheatley ultimately won the award and so got a second animation showing his acceptance of the award played at the show. But what most people never saw was the other character winning animations. Most important to this video obviously being Joker. Joker's thanking animation was a rendition of his "Plenty Wrong With Me" speech to Batman, followed by some verbal abuse towards Harley for breaking a different award. Since Rocksteady had no idea if they'd win an award this year, I can only assume this is their one award from 2009 when they won Best Studio, hence why Joker says it's incredibly difficult to win one. If that's the case, that's incredibly funny, especially since Arkham City ended up winning 3 awards that year. He then points a gun at the camera and fade to black. During his then unseen acceptance speech, we see Batman laying on the ground just off screen, implying Joker killed him before winning the award. A podium, background, and new award are flung into frame as he thanks himself. Mark Hamill is the freaking man in this scene, giving us some top-notch Joker comedy.
Let's see. I'd like to thank... who is it? Oh, yes. Me!
Then he does the best troll move I've seen in a while. He pulls out a file that says Arkham World script, saying he won't be needing it anymore, and drops it just off to the side. Then looks smugly at the camera while remarking,
Spoilers.
Imagine if this was played during the actual awards ceremony. Batman being dead wouldn't mean anything, but that Arkham World script would have sent the internet bananas. I'll tell you why as we move to Part 7, Below the Iceberg. Batman Arkham World Theories. During Arkham City, there's a thug that remarks the existence of Arkham Asylum and Arkham City and wonders what's next. Arkham County? Arkham Country? Arkham World? This sent the internet wild with theories that this could be the next Arkham game, hence why Rocksteady was going to be taking so long with their next game. Joker holding up that Arkham World script would have sent the internet wild with speculation of, it's real, it must be real, they wouldn't have said it if it wasn't real. As we all know, Arkham World never did, and likely never will, happen. Scrapped Zaz side quest in Arkham Knight. Zaz was indeed supposed to be in Arkham Knight. In the game's files is a bunch of unused audio of Zaz, a lot of which is paired with Batman talking as well. There's an opening conversation, some death screen lines, and both car ride conversations for before and after Batman's identity is revealed. They had a lot of stuff for this mission, so what happened? Well, recall that there's a different serial killer in Arkham Knight, Professor Pig. It's likely Zaz got scrapped in favor of Pig, but why that is also up for interpretation. Considering they already had a lot of work done for Zaz, I find it unlikely they brought Pig in as a last-minute replacement just for the new villain value. It's possible they had both killers with their own separate missions, but ended up scrapping one because of the overlap of having 2 serial killers. And I guess they chose Zaz because Pig was a fresh face they could bring in. I personally think they could have done both, or even brought Zaz back for a season of Infamy. They clearly had a lot of work done, and Zaz has been here since the very first game. It's a shame they relegated him to that small cameo. Morse code in Arkham City. It's not Morse code, but basically it's this Riddler symbol in the Riddler's Revenge menu of Arkham City. People thought the light was flashing in a pattern that could be translated through Morse code, but it was pretty quickly debunked. Many people who have studied Morse code for years made their way onto the forums where it was being discussed and said that they can't see anything in there. So if Morse code experts can't interpret anything from them, a bunch of nerds with way too much free time definitely can't either. Riddler's cell in Asylum was originally red. About as simple as you can get. Yeah, early concept art from Arkham Asylum had Riddler's cell colored with a bunch of red rather than the green we're all used to. Making this darker is the fact that this is almost certainly blood lining the walls. Whose blood is up in the air, but it is incredibly dark nonetheless. Cancelled 5th Arkham game. Back in 2019, someone on Twitter, I know, big deal, right, supposedly leaked some concept art for a cancelled 5th Arkham game. This game would supposedly follow Damian Wayne after the events of Arkham Knight, and the main villains would have been the aforementioned Court of Owls. I could be misremembering, but I definitely remember talk of a game called Arkham Insurgency making the rounds with these exact parameters, so that's what I'm gonna go with. Well, the years came and went, and Arkham Insurgency talk quickly died down, and now we have Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad. I'm not sure if I believe in this game existing anymore, mostly because continuing the Arkham Saga just wouldn't have made sense. There's very little evidence aside from these screenshots and speculation, but I guess it's not impossible that this was a real thing. Arkham Origins pre-alpha footage. Back at the very beginning of 2021, someone released supposed pre-alpha footage of Arkham Origins. It's unclear why or even how they posted it now, 8 years later, but it's some really interesting footage regardless. It's crazy how bare a game can look without the refinement that studios put behind it. And as someone going into game development myself, this is really cool to see. All the animations look as clean as they do in the final version, it's just missing textures and basically all the sound design. It's hard to tell in the gameplay, but I think the general layout of the prison was changed from this to the final version. Also, it looks like they might have been planning on using the new design for the explosive gel and ended up taking the one Rocksteady already made. A pretty interesting diversion from the base game, you could apparently have made Batman bang on the glass while Loeb was in the gas chamber. That's pretty cool. The alpha even has the Killer Croc fight basically exactly like it was in the main game. There's some more stuff, but I really only have time to talk about the Blackgate intro. There's probably plenty more small changes I would have noticed, and I'm really surprised it took 8 years for this to surface. It's really interesting to see one of my favorite games in the early development stages, especially because I'll be going through them myself sometime soon. $1 Million Mayhem. This was a supposedly scrapped challenge map for Arkham Knight. The idea was that you'd be in control of Joker in the Joker Mobile, and your goal would be to cause as much destruction as possible in a given time frame. If this was real, it would have been incredibly fun, and I don't know why they would have scrapped it other than time. You already caused untold amounts of destruction across Gotham and Arkham Knight, so getting rewarded for it would have been so much fun. Trains in Arkham Origins. It's a little hard to notice, but during Arkham Origins E3 2013 stage demo, there was a brief glimpse of a train moving through the city. While this would have been really cool to see in the final version and would have given a lot of life and kinetic energy to the map, it makes sense why they dropped it. The city is empty. The only people outside are criminals and police due to a massive snowstorm. So having a train speeding through the city just wouldn't make sense. Plus, from a game design perspective, it raises a lot of potential issues. Can the player get onto the tracks? If so, can they get hit? Will the train stop or deliberately run them over and lead to a game over? Can they ride the train? Can they go through the tunnels that the train takes around the map? There's so many small issues that having these trains constantly moving through the city would have caused that I'm kinda glad they opted not to include them in the end. Unused suicide cars. This was found in a large unused file dive by Mr. Just Arkham Games, who basically revealed a bunch of unused assets in Arkham Knight's files. Here, we have a militia vehicle called Suicide Pursuit Drone, and it's just as dark as the title entry made it sound. It's a car strapped with a bunch of explosives and what appears to be a jet thruster on the back. However, notably, does not appear to have room for a driver or passenger. So rather than having random thugs attempt to suicide bomb Batman, these could have been random vehicles deployed by the militia along the lines of the drones. They could have roamed the streets, had dedicated chases, or even just shown up during tank combat to keep the player on their toes. It would have been a pretty cool addition, but I can definitely understand Rocksteady removing them. Suicide cars, even without actual people being inside, are just a little too close to real-world terrorist attacks that it makes sense they wouldn't want to represent them in their game. Arkham Asylum was supposed to have rhythm-based combat. After all the praise we give the Arkham Free Flow system, we should be happy we got it in the first place, because Arkham Asylum was planned to be a rhythm game. Supposedly, it would have involved pressing the corresponding button in time with colored circles on the screen colliding with each other. Along what lines it's similar to, I can't really say, as I haven't really indulged in the rhythm genre much myself. But be glad they didn't keep it, or we wouldn't have the amazing system we all know and love today. Playable Nightmare Batman. Probably not the Nightmare Batman you're thinking of. No, it's not the fear one from the end of Arkham Knight, it's the hallucination Joker sees in Arkham Origins. This guy, remember? Well, apparently WB Montreal wanted to include this as a playable skin, but it was removed because it caused a glitch that corrupted save data. It would have been called the Worst Nightmare Suit, and honestly would have been awesome to play as, but corrupting save data is a pretty big no-no for a game. I'm a little disappointed that they had to cut it, but if it was going to ruin my chance of getting 100%, then removing it was just fine by me. Failed Dark Knight game. Before Batman Arkham Asylum, there was supposed to be a different Batman game based on The Dark Knight, the 2008 movie by Christopher Nolan, starring Christian Bale as Batman and the late Heath Ledger as the Joker. Rest in peace. It was planned to be made by Pandemic Studios, who I'm sure most of you know, because they were behind such classics as Destroy All Humans and frickin' Star Wars Battlefront 2, the good one from 2005, and published by EA, who released a Batman Begins video game a year earlier. This supposed Dark Knight game would have been called simply Batman The Dark Knight. It began development all the way back in 2006 while the movie was still in pre-production. The team was given access to the movie's script, and all the cast would have reprised their roles in a large open-world game. It was kept completely secret from the public during its entire development time, until Gary Oldman, the actor who played Jim Gordon in the Dark Knight trilogy, revealed the game was in development during an interview. It went through a whopping 2 years of development before EA canned the game after Pandemic realized the technology just wasn't there for what they wanted to achieve. It is sad the world would never get to experience this game, but its cancellation was a blessing in disguise. EA did not renew their license for the Batman property, so it was returned to WB Interactive Entertainment. And the rest we know is history. WB took a massive risk in Rocksteady, who created Arkham Asylum, and the Arkham franchise was born. It is a thing to wonder what this game could have been if EA wasn't so strict in their deadlines and Pandemic could have been given more time. Not only was Pandemic an incredibly reliable studio that churned out banger after banger, but it would have been improving on the Batman Begins game I mentioned earlier. That game was, well, a game, and Pandemic had big aspirations for The Dark Knight. It would have been a big, open-world Batman game 3 years before Arkham City, with an incredible movie tie-in. It's really something to wonder about, and if we'd even still have the Arkham series if it did come to fruition. Part 8. The Deep Ocean. Bad Blood. Hey, that's me. That's my thing. I did that video. Here, click the card to go watch it. It's a little outdated in its milestone celebration, but I still think it's a pretty great video. So go watch it if you want a better explanation of this than I can do right here. Scrapped Wii version of Arkham Asylum. There is very little recorded evidence on the matter, but this was almost a thing. Back when Asylum was released, a Wii version wasn't immediately in consideration because of the pure lack of power the system had. However, because of the popularity of the Wii, a port seemed like a no-brainer. The port, however, would not be handled by Rocksteady, but instead a third party known as Redfly Studios. Redfly was in charge of a lot of Wii ports, including Star Wars Force Unleashed 2 and a few others that ended up being scrapped with Arkham Asylum. From the very limited gameplay footage we have, the game appears to follow a completely different series of events compared to the Asylum we know. It appears to take place on the rooftops of Gotham City with some pretty janky animations and graphics as a whole, but that can be forgiven since this is supposedly a pre-alpha build of the game. You can see a cursor jiggling on screen, as most Wii games are known to have, and I can't really determine what it's for. It doesn't appear to focus on enemies for combat, and there's not enough gameplay for me to decipher anything. I assume it would have been used for gadgets like the grapple and maybe batarangs and the backlaw as well, and this would make sense to help with aiming, since the Wiimote and Nunchuck only have one joystick between them. The combat we're shown is a lot snappier than the beautiful flow we're used to in the Arkham series, but again, that could be chalked up to being pre-alpha. Overall, it doesn't seem like a terrible early build, as all the important pieces are there. Aside from the reticle, this looks like a basic early build of an Arkham game. Given the landscape and this strange Joker blimp, it likely would have been a different story than the one we all know and love, potentially giving us a precursor to Arkham Asylum, like how Origins Blackgate is a later story to Origins. I could honestly see this as being the events leading right up to Asylum, where Joker invades City Hall and takes the mayor hostage. And it would end with Batman driving Joker to Arkham, as we see at the beginning of Asylum. This would have been pretty cool to see, but I definitely understand why they didn't go through with making this. Given the Wii's reputation with third-party games as a whole, it wouldn't have given Arkham Asylum the outing it deserved. Though it is unknown why they didn't go through with this game, I'll assume it's the Wii's reputation. Batman and Joker co-op footage. All things considered, this footage is almost certainly fake. There were plenty of discussions about this supposed co-op footage and how it probably meant there was going to be co-op in Arkham City, but just... no. It's very well animated, no doubt about it, but the creator also reused voice lines and the models from Asylum. If this was Rocksteady, they'd have used new dialogue, the new Batsuit, sick Joker, and thugs they specifically made for Arkham City. But instead, they reused very noticeable dialogue on all the characters' parts, including the thugs and the very noticeable models of Asylum, which are notorious for having a lack of diversity. Furthermore, this is not the way Rocksteady records trailers. This seems to be a mix between their gameplay and cutscene trailers. It has the cinematography and general look of their cutscene trailers, but has the flow of their gameplay trailers. While it's undeniably impressive, it just doesn't feel like a Rocksteady trailer. It's possible Rocksteady made this, but highly, and I mean highly, unlikely. If you somehow have proof to the contrary, feel free to say so in the comments. You can see where Jason was tortured in the asylum. Before watching the video, I didn't really subscribe to this theory, but it's a little hard to deny the evidence. This is 100% the same spot from Joker's tape. Well, maybe not. The problem with these theories is that they ignore the main reason Batman was never able to find Jason. Joker took him to an abandoned wing of Arkham. This area in the medical center is definitely not abandoned. To me, this is just a case of the developers reusing assets they already had to make this video and hoping we wouldn't notice. Furthermore, think about where this is and specifically what map this is. This is the Silent Knight Predator map, the very same Predator map that they remastered for Arkham Knight. The only Predator map they remastered, I might add. So this map is already in the Arkham Knight engine, so they just had to throw Jason and Joker models from the night hallucination scene into this area of the map and let the animation do the rest. Furthermore, if this wasn't just a case of reusing assets, the video you can watch is in Arkham VR, a game that's literally just Batman's nightmare. So details of this video could easily be misconstrued in Batman's mind, leading to this theory here. It's possible this is actually what happened and this happened to be where Jason was killed. But the fact that every source says Jason was tortured in an abandoned wing of Arkham, and this area of the medical center is clearly not abandoned, makes me incredibly skeptical. Batman never had the Joker disease in Arkham Knight. So this is basically the opposite of my bad blood theory. It suggests that Joker wasn't actually invading Batman's mind and that it was only his fears that allowed Joker to manifest. Or in other words, he was never sick, but rather afraid of being sick. And that fear allowed him to slip. This would explain why Batman was able to overcome Joker at the end of Arkham Knight through sheer willpower, rather than needing a cure, therapy, or something else entirely. However, this theory fails to bring a couple of factors into account. Firstly, it assumes that Batman only began to slip after being exposed to fear toxin. But that simply isn't the case. Joker begins manifesting long before the events of Arkham Knight in Arkham VR. In Arkham VR, the whole plot is that it's Batman's nightmare of Joker taking over. There's no fear toxin involved here, it's purely Batman with his own thoughts. Furthermore, Batman wasn't the only one putting all those guns on the Batmobile. Joker was influencing his actions behind the scenes, persuading him to put more firepower on the Batmobile for when he gets behind the wheel. And lastly, Batman is ready to quarantine himself long before the events of Arkham Knight. He isn't just afraid he's infected, he clearly still is, and knows that the only way to stop it would be to lock himself away. Batman only takes measures this drastic when there's no other option. There is no fear toxin involved here. Joker is manifesting long before the events of Arkham Knight. The fear toxin is simply what drives Batman over the edge and completely unleashes Joker, proving his paranoia valid. Arkham City was supposed to have multiplayer. I could only find a pair of articles on this matter released at the time, which say that an issue of PSM3 broke the news that Arkham City would feature multiplayer, though they couldn't confirm in what capacity. Unfortunately, the PSM3 link brings up a 404 error, so there's no confirming what it might have said. Both of the articles were theorizing that it could have something to do with Catwoman, since she had been confirmed as playing a major role in the story. What I found interesting is that they took this supposed leak completely in stride and didn't question it in the slightest. If I had information on what the PSM3 article said, maybe I could pass better judgment on their believing it. But yeah, this was actually a thing people thought was happening for a long time. I'm not sure if Rocksteady ever came out debunking this myth, or if everyone was just waiting on the edge of their seats for the game to come out, only to be disappointed at the lack of multiplayer. It's a really interesting thing to think about. What's actually more interesting about this is that this information came out over a year before the game was even released. Given City's nearly 30-month development cycle, it's highly unlikely such a mode was ever actually in the game or even planned for it. However, as we all know, Arkham Origins did have a multiplayer mode, but that game was developed in about 21 months, nearly a year less than Arkham City. So I see one of two realities for how that came about. Number one, City was never planned to have a multiplayer mode, but the possible hype surrounding it inspired WB to make their own in Origins. Or number two, City was planned to have a multiplayer mode, but it was scrapped for time, and the WB team decided to finish it to give their game more content. I personally subscribe to reality 2 a bit more. City was already shaping out to be 4 times as big as Asylum, and it only had an additional 9 or so months of development time compared to the previous game. It's entirely possible they began work on a multiplayer mode only to scrap it because they were too late in development and couldn't finish it. Given the fact that these articles immediately latched onto this PSM3 leak, with no hesitation, implies they got information correct more often than not. So they could have seen the concepts and early development of this mode and leaked it, but Rocksteady didn't have enough time or resources to see it through to the end, scrapping it, but keeping their work lying around for a potential future title. When WB Montreal were called in to make Origins, they were thrown in with almost no time to make a game at least as big as City, meaning they had to reuse as many assets as possible in as little time as possible. Considering how cut down some people consider Origins to be compared to City, how would they have developed an entirely new mode with new assets, mechanics, and general design with that same time constraint? It's certainly possible, but it would be even easier if you had some of the work done for you. I see this as entirely possible, but if one of you watching knows a thing or two about this situation, feel free to let me know in the comments. And with that, we have finally reached the end of this enormous iceberg and the end of this video. Just for reference for how big this project was, some of my longest videos so far have been a little over half an hour. Those scripts are only about 13 pages long. This script was 38! If I were to format this script like a traditional college essay, that is Times New Roman, 12-point font, double-spaced, it would be 55 pages long. Why can't I write that much when it matters for school? Once again, a huge thank you to the very creator of this iceberg, Brot, for creating this absolute masterpiece and helping me with some of the more obscure entries. This was an absolutely massive project, and I'd say all this hard work deserves a sub, no? At the very least, sharing this around or leaving a comment would be nice because I need a vacation after this. Anyway, thanks so much for watching all the way through, and I will see you later, chaps.